And if you have any questions on the syllabus, you can bring them to me next time, or you can email me, or whatever you want to do. We're not going to spend any time together looking at the syllabus. It would be incredibly boring for all of us, so let's not do that, okay? But there's lots of good information to read. Questions that you have about policies and procedures will almost certainly be answered here, but let's just throw it out there. Any questions at this moment about policies and procedures? You probably have some. Hello, welcome to Introductory Algebra. Thank you very much. Have a seat. Okay, any questions on anything? Okay, so read through the syllabus and bring your questions about that if you have any. Okay, next document is blue. It is the schedule. It looks like this. Everybody see it? We're just going through these things in order. So the blue sheet has lots of good information on it. And let's try that again. Okay, so the blue sheet tells us that, for example, today is Wednesday, September the 4th. And if you take a look at this last column up here, it says in class we study. Everybody see that? That tells you what we are doing today. Today we are doing what is called lesson 1. You can see that they're numbered down there. And from your textbook, we are talking about sections 1.1 and 1.2. Next class is in the next row, right there. What sections are we covering next class? 1.2 and 1.3. And if you look down, you will find out what we're covering on December 3rd. If we meet on that day, this tells you exactly what we're doing every day, okay? Additionally, there's a middle column. Middle column tells you what homework is due. So I will highlight here in green the homework that is due next time. There is homework due next time. And in fact, if you look at that column, it's pretty full. There's homework due almost every single class. And the assignment that's due next time is 1.1 and 1.2 and this typed paper, which we'll talk about. But I just want to point out one other thing here. For example, if you take a look at, let's just jump down to like this guy right here. On that particular day, we cover 1.7. Where do you see 1.7 as the homework assignment being due? The very next class. So in some sense, I didn't really need to give you both columns. I could have just given you the one column and said, hey, the homework is always due the next class, but it's here. Hopefully it's very clear exactly what's due and exactly what we're covering, okay? All right, moving on. Next document in your pile is green. It lists the homework assignments. I want to start by going to the second page of this document. So go to the second page of the green. At the top, there's a box that says assignment 2. Okay, remember a moment ago it said that the homework was sections 1.1 and 1.2? Yes. Oh, I realized that I have an old version of this document. It changed a little bit after I got my electronic version. So for you, it looks a tiny bit different. But see how it says section 1.1 at the top, and then section 1.2 is the next one? Those are the homework assignments. How do we know those are the ones that are due? Because that's what it said on our schedule. Right here in green, it says 1.1 and 1.2. So how do you know which problems are due? You go to this green packet right here, okay? So those problems right there are due. They are from the textbook, and we will talk about the textbook. But for right now, let's come back to this homework assignment. There's a third thing due tomorrow. In addition to sections 1.1 and 1.2, first two rows right there, there is a typed paper due tomorrow. So let's go back to the first page of green. And on the first page of green is a list of homework expectations. So you're going to look through this and you're going to figure out exactly what it is that I'm looking for as you do tonight's homework in the textbook. And there's this little system about checking your work. I think it's really important to check your answers. So you'll read through that before you do tonight's homework assignment. But the other thing I wanted to talk about is this paper idea. So in the box at the bottom, it says assignment 1. This references turning in a typed paper for Friday. Let's see. So there are a lot of returning folks here. Can anybody tell us what the Math Studio is? Nice and loud.
You can get math help.
Mm-hmm. Other thoughts on the Math Studio? Mm-hmm. What about peer tutoring? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the Math Studio and the Peer Tutoring Center are related to each other. They're in different spaces, but they're both wonderful resources. Can somebody point? Where is the Math Studio in relation to us. It is a couple of walls that way. So you just walk out that way, you will find this big room with glass windows. I guess lots of windows are glass walls. And the Math Studio is there, and oftentimes it is covered by a math faculty member. I will be there later today from 11 until noon. As soon as it is available, I will hand you a schedule of exactly when the Math Studio is covered, but it is a wonderful resource for you. It's one thing for me to tell you it's a wonderful resource, and it's another thing for you to experience the Math Studio, and this paper is trying to get you to experience the Math Studio. So between now and next class, Friday morning, you're going to go to the Math Studio and get a sense of what's happening there. Now, when we say get a sense, let's see. Let's see. You are going to give me a reaction to the Math Studio. Tell me what you see. Tell me how it feels. Just think about the Math Studio and what it is. And additionally, you're going to read some letters. There are folders of letters. It tells you exactly where they are. They're by a bookshelf. You can ask somebody who's working there where they are. But there are folders of letters written by people who have already taken Math 095 and written them to you. And so you're going to read at least 10 of these letters, and you're going to respond to what you've read. So you're going to react to the Math Studio, and you're going to react to reading these 10 letters. So hopefully between now and Friday, you have an opportunity to type up at least a 400-word paper. Doesn't have to be too long. If typing it is a real inconvenience, then you can write it, but please write it legibly so that I can read it, okay? Questions on the paper? A lot of folks in your position, if you're free, like right at 10 o'clock today, find it quite convenient to just walk over there and do this assignment right after class today. So if you can, something to think about. All right, next thing in your packet, I'm not going to project, but it is, so the next document in the packet talks about, there we go, it's this memo, it is in white, talks about the difference between this class, Math 095, and another class that we have called Math 094. So I'm not going to use this whiteboard very often during the semester, but I will momentarily here. Many of you came from Math 090, which is a basic math class. And from Math 090, you find yourself here in Math 095, which is an introductory algebra class. There's another course in between. It is not required of anybody. So if you are here legitimately, you are welcome to stay here. But I just want to put it out there. Come on in. Just want to put out there that there is another course in between. This introductory algebra class assumes that you have seen algebra someplace in your past, in another college class, in a high school class, in many years of high school classes, someplace in your past, hopefully in the not too distant past, you will have had some algebra experience. We're going to cover roughly 1.5 years of high school algebra in 15 weeks. So it's going to move at a pretty decent clip, and it might feel too fast if you haven't seen algebra before ever, or if you haven't seen algebra in more than 10 years, or if you really struggled getting through this Math 090 class. So in between these two classes, again, completely optional, is a class that we have called 094. And it is something that is supposed to prepare you for this class. So you can read through the description here on this white memo. You can talk to me about any questions that you have about this class, but I'm just putting it out there. This is something that you can think about. You don't need to make a decision today. In fact, you can even make the decision fairly late in the semester. You can go through and take some quizzes and take a test here. And if it just feels like things are moving too fast, it's been too long since you've seen algebra, or you just need to go slower, you can make this switch later than you can make the switch for just about any other class here at GCC, right? We have like a last day to add. I don't know what the date is this semester, but there's just some final date. You can make this switch after that final date. We've got to deal with the registrar. They won't charge you for a second class. You just drop this one and switch right into that one. Just want to put it out there, okay? All right. Next document in your list is pink. It represents the even answers to the homework problems from the textbook. Your textbook has odd answers in the back. I want to make sure you have the even answers that you need as well. Again, I think it's really important to be able to check your work whenever you're doing your homework. Okay, next document is a massive one. It is blue. It says Class Packet 1 at the top. This is the document that we're going to be spending a lot of our time on every class. There you go. So if you move to the next page, you'll find a table of contents. We can skip past this for right now. And there's actually some stuff on the bottom here. Let's see, what does it look like for you guys? Starts there. Yeah, so so you have something written in by hand over here telling you that this stuff goes in packet 2. So there are actually 3 blue packets. I'm only giving you the first one right now. I don't want to give you the whole thing for the whole semester. They exist. I'm just not handing them out. Come on in. So you'll get more like a third of the way through the semester. But if we move on to page 6, then you will find a list of stuff, much of which we have done today. So for example, down here at the bottom is this list of documents that you guys had handed out, all right? And so we've almost finished going through the list. And this is going over here. There you go. Okay. The last document that you guys have, and we're going to stay here in blue for the rest of today, but the last document you have is this thick green packet. It says green required packet. Everybody see it? It's the only other one left. It's real big. That right there is an alternate source for homework problems. Let me be clear. You guys have a textbook, and there's going to be homework just about every day from that textbook. But there are some sections in the textbook where the teacher who made these materials with me, her name is Sandy, where she didn't really think that the textbook's description was exactly the way she would have done it. She didn't like the words, didn't like the treatment that the textbook gave for a particular topic. So Sandy made up her own problems. And those problems are here in this green required homework packet. So if we just take a quick step back to the homework assignment sheet, this one is also green, but it's only a couple of pages. Can we just take a jump back to the green homework assignment sheet? It's the other green document. And if, for example, we look at section 1.5, it's on the second page, and it's down in the second box. But section 1.5 is fairly typical in that you have some required homework packet homework. That's the big green packet that you have. So this night you're going to do problems 23 through 27 from the big green packet. And additionally, you're going to do from the textbook those problems on page 53. Okay? So this is fairly typical where you'll have homework from the 2 sources. You will never have homework from any other place besides the textbook and that big green packet that I handed you. Any questions about that? Yes. Which textbook is it? Does anybody have the textbook on them that can hold up? Thank you. Right there, that is the right one. Anybody know how much? Yeah, okay. So, good question. So the textbook is here and it costs $122 in the bookstore? Okay, so it costs $122. You know the worst thing about that crazy high figure is that I don't get any of it. Like I wouldn't mind if I got my cut, but I get nothing, and it's still crazy expensive. Okay, so the textbook is required. The one bad thing about this particular textbook, well, it's good and bad. It is specific to GCC. In fact, on the cover, it says Greenfield Community College. So we took another textbook that was bigger, and we just kind of took some pieces out of it and a second textbook and crunched them all together, and we get this kind of Frankenstein book that is really tailored to this class here at GCC. That's all good. The bad news is, because it is tailored to us, it is not valuable to anybody else outside of GCC, and you cannot sell this book back to the bookstore. That said, you could sell it to a future 095 student here next semester, right? So you could sell it to somebody, but you're not going to be able to sell it back to GCC's bookstore. So I just want to put it out there so that you're not surprised at the end of the semester. This book you cannot sell back to GCC. So you got to decide whether you're going to write in your book or not. It is designed to be written in. There are lots of graphs in there and lots of tables and all these kinds of things that the book was designed so that you would fill all that stuff in. Does filling it in decrease the value of the book? I guess so. If you're not going to sell it, that's not a problem. But if you are, you kind of have to make a decision. Yes. Yeah. No, like I said, this book was designed for you to write in, and so I'm expecting that most folks will show me their homework in the book. In terms of collecting the homework, I don't collect it and take it home with me. I'm going to walk around at the start of every class and a few minutes before every class, checking everybody's homework. So you can just bring your book with you, and I'll check it in there, and then you'll keep the book with you. Now, here's an opportunity to save some money. There are older editions of this book that don't look quite like that. They are black. Am I describing? It's a very dark cover. It's kind of like a kaleidoscope image on the front. It's okay. If you look on the syllabus, maybe we still got this handy, the syllabus talks about the different options that you have for textbooks. So if you go to like the middle of the first page, it says required text. So I have given you 3 different ISBN numbers. I believe the first one is the current one. It's the newest one. It's the shiniest one. It's also the most expensive one. You can save significant amounts of money by buying one of the older editions of the book. There's a trade-off. You're going to have to do a little bit of work if you buy one of the older editions because the page numbers aren't quite the same and some of the section numbers aren't quite the same. But I have a document, which I'm happy to share with you if you get an older version of this book, which tells you what the right assignments are for the older version of the book, okay? So putting it out there, different ISBN numbers from newest to oldest, that's what you're looking at. If you're willing to do a little bit of work, you can save some money and buy not the newest edition, all right? There was something else I was going to say about the book, but I lost it. We'll come back to it. Any other questions right now? Yes. Quizzes and exams. Quizzes are shorter kinds of things. Let's see. So the schedule, we can take a quick look at our schedule again. So the schedule is the one-page blue document. Everybody see it? I should have mentioned this. The blue schedule, this document right here, is front and back. You want to make sure you look at the correct side. The correct side is the one that says here at the top, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. That is what you are looking for. On the top of the other side, it says Tuesday, Thursday. So you want MWF, that's your side. And so if you look down on this page, you will find that, for example, on September the 16th, that's Monday, we have our first quiz. And then if you look a little bit further down on September 30th, we have our first exam. The quizzes are not full period things. They're going to take part of the period. And they are not on a ton of stuff. They are on, say, roughly 5 classes of material. The exams are full period, and they are on more stuff. So we have 3 quizzes and 3 exams throughout the semester. And so we'll just highlight them real quick here. So quiz 1 is there, exam 1 is there. The quiz is on just this stuff. The exam, ooh, goodness, look at that. Let's try again. The quiz is on this stuff, and the exam is on all of that stuff. And then if you go a little bit further down, you'll find in bold quiz 2 is here, and exam 2 is here. And again, the quiz is only on a little bit of stuff. Exam, in theory, is on everything, although it will be more focused on the stuff since exam 2. And then there's a quiz 3 and exam 3. Good question. No, there's a separate exam 3 from the final exam. Yeah, so exam 3 is here. Then we've got about another week and a half of classes, and then the final exam. Let's see. So you can mark your calendar if you're into that kind of thing. Our exam is on December 20. Yes. Our exam starts at 8 o'clock. Yes. We can work around that. You can meet me if you have a conflict. Okay, good. Other questions? Okay, so we're back here in the big blue packet. There are 2 other documents that I refer to here. I will hand you the yellow thing next class, and I will hand you the bookmark as soon as it's available, but we're going to hold off on that. So hopefully not too overwhelming. I know it's a lot of material, a lot of pages that I just handed you. as we get into the flow of the semester over the next few days, hopefully it will become clear exactly how you're going to use all these documents together. And we'll talk about some Moodle stuff next time too. Okay, so on the very next page, now we're on page 7 of the big blue packet. Everybody with me? Okay, and at the top it says what's due next class. It's not going to say this every day, but just because it's the first day, there's this typed paper due. We talked about that. That has to do with the Math Studio. There's homework from the textbook that is due. Now, some of you already have the textbook, and that's great. You'll be ready to do the homework today. If you don't have the textbook, there is a copy of the textbook on reserve in the library. So you can go there later today and do your homework if you don't have the textbook yet. There's a copy sitting in the Math Studio. You can go there today or tomorrow and work on the homework until you get your book. Also, I have copies of the first few sections of the textbook that I can hand you a photocopy just to kind of tide you over, like if you're waiting for the book to come in the mail because you ordered it online. You can see me after class, all right? So no reason to not do the homework, even if you don't have the book yet, even if it's going to be a week before you have the book. There are places where you can get the book for free. Intro Algebra? Come on in. Let's see. How about this table with 3 here in the middle? Sure thing. Okay, so everybody understand the book exists even if you don't have it yet, even if you're not going to have it for a week. There are ways for you to make sure you can do the homework, okay? All right, so that's the homework, and we talked about all of that. And then in here is that thing I said about just details about buying the old book, okay? So I'll give you everything right here. No problem. Here you go. Hi, Joseph. Welcome. Okay, there is some stuff up on Moodle. I'd encourage you to just log into Moodle just to make sure that you know how to log in. If you don't know how to figure out your username or password, ask me right after class. I will tell you. And just check and see that you can access our Moodle page. It's living and breathing, and you should be able to access some of these documents. And like I said, we'll talk more about the Moodle stuff next time. But there's a list on page 8 of lots of stuff that exists on our Moodle page. Okay, so we are now on page 9. Everybody with me here in the middle of this page? It says Demos Lesson 1. Everybody see it? Okay, so I know it was a lot of policy procedure stuff. We're not going to do this every day. Normally, we'll just dive in and do math. That's what you came here for, right? Just to dive in and do math. So we're finally going to start doing some math. But before we do, just make sure that you know the names of everybody at your table. Go ahead. So we begin here with with the demo section for lesson 1. Can we get somebody to volunteer to read this objective out loud? Yeah, just want to read it out loud. Go ahead. Thank you. At the start of every lesson, we're going to have this objective just at the very beginning, just so you know exactly what it is that we're going to cover mathematically. Can we get a different volunteer to read number 1 out loud? Okay, thank you very much. So we're going to fill in this chart here. Looking at the information that's given to me, what number should I put in this top left spot in the chart? 1980, that's the first year that we have info about, so we'll squeeze 1980 in there. And how about right below that? 1990, that's the year we're trying to get information about. Now, before you fill in this top right spot, let's read very carefully. It says Chinese population in the US in thousands of people. What number goes into that top right spot? I heard 1 vote for 806. We're going to vote for 806,000. Those are the two choices. Which one goes in the table? Yeah, in the top right. Do we put 806 or do we put 806,000? We're kind of split, actually. I'm hearing votes for both camps. All right, talk amongst yourselves. Decide whether it goes 806 or 806,000.
Oh,
All right, it seems like some folks are coming to a consensus. Which one are we putting? 806 or 806,000? 806, yes? If I write 806,000, what am I really saying is the population? 806,000 is what I'm saying, because buried in the name of that column is in thousands of people. So thousands is already there. What's a better name for thousands? Is millions. We'd be saying 806 million. Okay, let's see. So we're going to cross that off. 806 goes there. And we're trying to figure out the next number. What's the population in 1990? That's the goal. Okay, and we are told that the population increases by 104.1%, whatever that means. 104.1%. Are we okay?
Yeah, I was just giving him a free cap.
All right. Okay. Oh, that reminds me, actually. Calculators. So there are lots of different calculators you can use in this course. There are going to be very few moments on a quiz or a test where I ask you to use a calculator. Most of the time, they will not be allowed. So there are a couple of different kinds of calculators. So there are these big, fancy graphing calculators like this. They cost like $100 plus. You do not need one of these, but if you have it, you can use it, okay? But you do not need something near as fancy as that. There you go. So in the syllabus, it does talk about the recommended calculator. It's this guy right here. It's in the syllabus, so I'm not going to bother reading to you the serial number or anything like that. But there are two calculators available for sale down in the bookstore. You could also go to Staples or any place like that and just buy yourself a calculator. Again, in the syllabus, it describes exactly what you're looking for. Essentially, you just need a button that has power on it and another button that has pi on it, and that should take care of it. In the bookstore, there are two calculators available. There's this one right here for $20. Then there's another one for $10. My understanding is that the big difference is this one, if I type in, for example, 9 times 8, it says 72, but it still says 9 times 8 up at the top. Whereas the cheaper calculator, the 9 times 8 would disappear and it would just say 72. My understanding is that most folks who opt for the $10 calculator are so frustrated with it very quickly, they go out and they spend $20 more on this calculator. So in Sandy's experience, she recommends buying the $20 one from the get-go and not being disappointed in the $10 one and spending more money later on, okay? If you have another calculator already, you can show it to me. I can tell you whether or not it would be appropriate for this class, all right? Okay, so let's come back to this problem right here. So this problem talks about increasing by a certain percentage. We'll have to deal with that percentage business. Let's answer a slightly easier question first. Suppose that I just tell you not that the population increased by 104%, but rather that the population increased by 3. I'm going to put here in parentheses, 1,000. What if I told you the population increased by 3? What would the new population be? 809? Yes? Easy. So we know if we can figure out how many more people we have, we just add it to the 806. Yes? So the question really becomes, how do we translate this 104.1% into a number of people? Because if it's just a number of people like 3, we know we're supposed to add. So we'll add the number of people, whatever that is. Okay, so let's give this a shot. We've got to figure out the number of people. Okay, I have 806,000, but we're just going to call it 806. And we're trying to find 104.1% of 806. 104.1% of 806. I've got two numbers, 806 and 104.1. I need to do something to these two numbers. I'm looking for an operation here. Add, subtract, multiply, or divide. One vote for divide. One couple of votes for multiply. Other votes? What do I think? I'm trying to find 104.1% of 806,000. A few more votes for multiply, that's good. Math is a democracy, so we'll multiply. Okay, so we're going to take the 806,000, but we're just writing 806, and we're going to multiply by 104.1%. I'm just going to point out, I'm using a star there. What's a real common symbol for multiplication? Star is common. What else? A dot is common. What else? An X. I'm going to encourage you not to use X's. We're going to have X's floating around all semester. It's an algebra class after all. So either a star or a dot if you prefer. But please don't use an X for multiplication. Okay, so we're going to multiply these two things together. But 104.1 is a percentage, and it is very rare indeed to multiply a percentage by a number. Anybody remember how to convert that 104.1% into something more useful to us? Excellent. Move the decimal 2 places to the left. That is how we convert 104.1% to a decimal. What was that? And drop the percent symbol. So we're going to put a fact over here. Tell us your name again, please. Amy says that 104.1% is exactly the same thing as 1.041 without a percent symbol. Yes?
So when you
Correct. Every time we're going to multiply by a percentage, we'll move that decimal 2 places to the left. That's great. Okay, so then we'll come back over here and say, okay, so then when we did 806 times, instead of the percent version of this number, we need to use the decimal version, 1.041. Okay, so this is where the calculator will come into play. Can somebody churn through and tell us what the answer is? Okay, so I'm going to round it to 839, which means probably I shouldn't use that equal sign. Mathematicians are very particular. Equals means really equal. And if I'm rounding it, it's not really equal. What's a better symbol? Yeah, the squiggly equal, right? It's almost equal. Okay, so that 839 represents the new, the additional population. That 839 is that 104.1%. So we have gained 839 people. We've already figured out, now that we know how many people we've gained, what do we do with the 839 and the original 806? We add them up. So here, we put the old 806, we add the 839 that we gained. All together, 1645, thank you. And so that's our answer. It doesn't say to write a sentence, but let's just write a real quick sentence here at the bottom. So in 1990, the Chinese population was what? Yeah, the 1 million is the nicest way to write it. I'm going to write it not as nice as you said it. I'm going to write it somehow so I can use the 1645. 1645 what? Thousands. Thousands of people. Good. But 1,645,000 is right. Absolutely. Okay. questions on this one? When you're ready, we'll go on to the next page. And the next page references a bar graph. Can we get somebody to read number 2 out loud? Somebody we haven't heard from? Could you read number 2, please? Okay, so take a look at the bar graph. Lots of information in the bar graph. On the bottom, we've got different nationalities. On the vertical, population in thousands. And then the title of the graph is there at the top, US population from selected Asian countries. White bars, which are the only ones that exist right now, show population in 1980. Shaded bars, which don't exist, will show the population in 1990. 806,000. Where do we see that in this bar graph? All right, so what about Chinese? And where do you see that number? You're looking at that graph and you're seeing something. Mm-hmm. Good. So if you look at the top of that Chinese bar, you'll see it's just above one of those lines on the graph. And each of those lines represents 100 people, well, 100,000. And so we are just above that line that says 800. And so the 806 is exactly where the top of that bar is. All right. And so you can see right away, get a very good rough sense of the different populations back in 1980. Okay, so what we're going to do now is spend some time doing classwork. So if we take a very quick peek back to the middle of the previous page, it said demos. Demos is how we will start most of the class. That is me kind of leading a discussion. For most of class time, not today because it's the first day, but most of class time we will spend doing class work. That's an indication that you guys are going to be working with your neighbors at your tables doing math. I'll walk around and help. I will say that some folks will just immediately start working with their group mates right away and work that way the whole period, and that's super. Some people are going to be more comfortable working individually. Super. The only thing that's required, whether you're working together or working individually, is that you check your answers with the people at your table at some point during the class, okay? So whichever one you are comfortable with, however you'd like to work, see how far you can get in parts A and B in this problem, and again, individually or with your group. Okay, so let's come back together for a few minutes. So some groups are flying through these activities and some folks are taking their time, and that's all good. Normally this group time is going to be a significant portion of our 50 minutes together, but today it's kind of unusual with all the policy stuff at the start. So what we're going to do is stop wherever you are. I would encourage you, because nobody had time to finish all of this stuff, it goes on to the next page. But regardless of where you are, I'd encourage you to spend some time maybe trying to fill in the rest of these problems. The blue packet was designed so that if you do every problem in the blue packet, you should be in good shape in terms of knowing the material for this course. But I'm not going to come through and check and make sure you've done every single problem in this. But it's here, it's a resource, and I'd encourage you to take advantage of it. But if we go to this page right here, you guys jump to page 12. Jump to page 12. No, in the packet. Yeah, same packet. Page 12. So don't fill it in just yet because we're about to fill it in together in a moment. Well, individually, but don't start filling it in yet. It turns out that arithmetic is a really, really important thing to have under your belt to have a good chance at success in an algebra class. And folks have sometimes done really well in the beginning of this class, but then when we get to the stuff where the arithmetic is kind of more intense, and they're focused on that because they don't have the arithmetic background, makes learning the algebra so difficult. So if you have a weakness with arithmetic, we'd like to know we'd like to know it now, and we'd like to be able to fix it before it becomes a problem when the algebra gets more intense. So we're going to take 2 minutes, and you're going to fill in these individually This will be like one of the few times I say don't work with your neighbors, but see how far you can get in 2 minutes and go. No calculators, just fill in as many of these as you can.
98.